Welcome to the Fight Game with Icewater and Puma. And I know you want to talk about the Serrano Hernandez fight. Let's go right into that before we talk about some of the other fights last weekend.
Man, let me tell you something. I've been watching boxing a long time, and I know you don't like the ladies fighting, but if they're gonna fight, give me something I can go, wow, that's a lot of action. So Amanda Serrano versus Erica Cruz was the headlining fight. It was supposed to be a fight where they were both champions. Cruz was not not as well known, but Serrano, we knew she fought Katie Taylor before, and they thought she was going to use her as a stepping stone. But it started out with two different styles. Serrano's the kind of more boxer, puncher type, really slick moving and throwing her hands. And Cruz just seems like a person that's a little bit different because she just comes straight forward. She likes to do is duck down, and instead of straight punches, she throws hooks. So it's like watching George Foreman fight in a way. She's with these hooks, and you're like, well, after a while, most people can see the hooks coming, right? But Cruz is like an Energizer bunny. She would get hit, drop back, and there was a cut because of clash of heads. And after about the fifth round, Cruz's face was just filled with blood, man. Filled with blood. And of course, with Serrano was hitting her, like, well, Serrano's gonna really take it to her now. Cruz didn't stop, and she was giving her back the business. It was action packed. I had never seen that much blood in a long time. I thought I was watching a steel cage match from wrestling, and come to find out that Cruz got cut, Serrano got cut as well, and they were just going at it. And the thing about it, where they were trying to stop almost every in the latter rounds, they would come over to a corner and stop the fight, postpone it, so they could look at Cruz's cut. And it was on top of her head, so the guy would just kind of wipe it off and put some stuff, try to put some salve on it to kind of, like Vaseline to calm it down. Sure. And a couple times, literally, Cruz just stopped hitting his hands. I don't want none of that. He tried to wipe her, try to give her water a couple times. She's just like, leave me alone and let me go back out here. She was a tough customer, and I was like, the amount of punishment that she was taking, and then also just the blood on her face. There was one point that Serrano had hit Cruz so many times and she was bleeding so much that Serrano had a blood mask on her face, bro. Wow. That's how much blood it was. I mean, I was like, my God. But yeah, but now they're getting ready because now they're trying to announce it. They're just going to announce it. I think it's May 20th. There's going to be a rematch between Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor.
Okay.
Overseas. Should be a hell of a match.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, a bloodbath. Say the least. There was another fight last week with Emmanuel Navarrete versus Liam Wilson for the vacant WBO World Super Featherweight that was, I think, left vacant for Shakira Stevenson. Because he moved up in weight. And me and my pop were watching this fight, and it just seemed like Liam Wilson had some chances to really make some hay in this fight, but Navarrete with that unorthodox style, and he seemed like he just throwing all caution to the wind and coming after the fighter, won a TKO in the ninth round. That fight, what are your thoughts about that fight?
Well, like you said, a lot of people have predicted that Wilson would win that fight. Mm-hmm. But when you're that guy, like we've seen how many times where guys would lost the fight. Trying to think about the guy that fought right before Boots Ennis. They called him Speedy. And he was fighting the guy and he waited all the way to the latter rounds and the guy caught him. When you know a guy that's unorthodox, you have to do your business early and try to get him out of there, right? And I think that's where Wilson kind of was too low-key. You just got to go out there and take care of the business. But also you have to be alert because people that are unorthodox can cause problems because you get tired and fatigued and you get, a little bit more, you're not as energized and you're not as alert. And a guy with an unorthodox style, you never know. You take it for granted, can catch you. And apparently that's what happened. Navarrete won. And hey, Wilson, they tell you all the time, protect yourself at all times. You have to be ready. And even if it's a guy that you think you can beat, like I said, you never know what a guy like that can do, particularly if they have that type of power to put you down.
Yeah, because there were a few times where you saw Liam Wilson just, I mean, just clock Navarrete, and Navarrete just wouldn't back down. He would just keep coming forward. I mean, he was game throughout the whole fight, and it was a fight where you didn't know who was going to win at one particular point, and then Navarrete just kind of edged it out at the end. Vicious, I think it was an uppercut, and you know, whatever the punch was, knocked Liam Wilson out, and that was it. That's all she wrote. Some of the future fights that we need to be looking at, or some other information that you got in some of the fights that are upcoming.
Later in March, I watched the first press. I watched the press conference, the first press conference, and they do not like one another. I'm talking about Caleb Plant and David Benavidez. They do not like each other. They try to be respectful, but Benavidez' dad is always in the ear talking stuff and calling people names and talk about people's family members and things of that nature. And Caleb Plant is really hot. So Benavidez really wants to just show him. I mean, it got so nasty where to the point where I guess Plant was done after the dad had talked about his family or something, what he was doing. And he literally just says, well, at least two things I know. I'm going to come here and I'm going to be in shape and I'm going to make weight. And I'm not going to be doing cocaine. I was like, ooh. So they do not like one another, but that's going to make for a very compelling fight. Looking forward to that.
Yes, that's on Showtime pay-per-view in Las Vegas, March 25th.
Yeah, that's going to be one you want to see because this is no love lost from either one of them dudes. They might respect one another, but not a lot. Also, we're trying to get ramped up for hopefully in May, Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. A lot of people talking about that. That's a big fight from that standpoint too. Also, trying to find out what is Devin Haney going to do because Bob Arum is trying to load him up with Lomachenko. But there's a lot of scenarios where like Virgil Ortiz could be a mandatory for Haney down the line, and the way they're trying to shape it up that if he does fight Lomachenko Haney, that there's a strong possibility that my son Shakur Stevenson could become his mandatory. So yeah.
When I'm thinking about that fight, there has to be a rematch clause in that particular fight with Lomachenko and Haney because you know it's going to be a great fight. Somebody's going to take an L. Do you know if there's a rematch clause, like, you know, before you fight anybody else, we gotta do this again?
Well, but I think you gotta look at it because what we're hearing now, before Lomachenko lost to Teofimo Lopez, right?
Right.
It was like the senior legend was gonna fight the younger guy. But what we're seeing now is, and people are just really analyzing it, if Teofimo Lopez can beat him, what can Haney do? Because now they're saying Lomachenko may be a little slower. Lomachenko's not the biggest dude in the world. Haney's literally like he's almost like the size of a welterweight. He's a big kid. And they're saying that he might just be too much with the speed too, or he might just be able to run some circles around Lomachenko. So my answer is, if that's a fight that happens and Lomachenko takes major punishment, he may not even ask for a rematch.
Wow.
I don't think he's going to ask like oh boy did like before, like Haney, where he went over there and beat him. I'm not sure for the betterment of what's going on, they might go, let's let Lomachenko drop down even further somewhere where he's going to be safe. And I think that's a Bob Arum call. Because why would you put him in there? And then let's say, for instance, he takes that loss to Haney, then you fight him again, and then you're like, well, I'm just trying to get myself back. And then all of a sudden, Shakur Stevenson, I want some. I mean, how many more L's? Usually Bob Arum protects the guys he likes and the champions like he did with Manny Pacquiao.
True.
Same way, too, he would do Lomachenko. I don't see him just thrown out because there are a lot of people out there that would love to have a taste at Lomachenko. So the question is, with that being said, where do you go from there? But there's always that realm of a possibility of down the line of they're even saying that if Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis beats Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney beats Lomachenko, then Gervonta Davis and Gervonta Davis and Haney could fight later in the year.
Okay.
So that's a fight that we want to see. And like you said, Spence and Thurman, hopefully sometime in May. With that, not sure what's going to happen with Crawford. But the other fight I definitely want to see is Tim Tszyu versus Mr. Harrison, and that's in March overseas. So I think there's a lot of possibilities, and then of course Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. I think there's a lot of possibilities that I want to see that I hope come true, because I think this could be one hell of a year for boxing, and I think boxing needs it.
Yeah, I'm looking at that matchup with Tszyu and Harrison. They're going to be fighting that in Australia, but it seems like it's pretty evenly matched between these two, to be perfectly honest. Of course, Harrison has the reach, he has the height, but I don't think Harrison should sleep on this particular dude, especially he's getting home cooking.
No, I agree with you 100%, but I think that's where Tony Harrison has to come in and be the fighter that he was against the first time against Charlo, right? And I think he has to really come and understand that he's in this guy's backyard, and this guy's young, he's hungry. Anything he does is going to be applauded, right? So Tony Harrison said he thrives off being the underdog in such a place where they'll be booing him all the time, but he has to stay focused. The majority of the reason why Tony Harrison loses, not just to Charlo, but even in closer fights where he's close, is because I think he loses focus.
Yeah, he does.
And he starts to play around a little bit, like I can get back in it. But if he stays focused, he's one of the most talented fighters in his division, but he has to stay focused.
Where does this put the Charlos, the Charlo that will fight Harrison, who I guess he took his place? Where does this put them if Harrison can get touches of?
I think it puts him in a possibility of fighting a trilogy, right?
Right.
And that's Jamel. So because of the factor that the first two were pretty good and he did beat him the first time, and that's what Tony Harrison said why he was advocating for this opportunity, because the only fight he wants after this, if he wins, is he wants another fight with Charlo. He wants the trilogy because it's 1-1. But Charlo might have bigger fish to fry, and there's some other folks out there that want to fight him as well. But it may not be worthwhile. It may be worthwhile looking at if nobody else is going to step to the forefront. But there's a lot of people talking about it. But what I want to find out is, though, you have it where you got guys like, Jamar Charlo's right at 154. And there's also to a point where we're saying that Caleb Plant said if he couldn't get that fight, with Benavidez, he was looking at Charlo.
Wow.
So you look at that, and then also the possibility of now that Errol Spence Jr. is moving up to 154 to fight Keith Thurman. Is he going to come back down to 147 and fight against Crawford, or is he going to stay at 154 because he says he doesn't like kind of trying to make the weight too much? That's speculative. I don't know what's happening. A lot of people are saying he's not coming back down, and other people thinking that they can move up as far as Ennis. Who's Ennis think he can move up and get all the belts. But I think that if he wants to come back down, that's Spence Jr. that is. If he wants to come back down 147, I think he'd find a way to do it. Might be a little tough, but I think he could do it. It would just take training. It might take him another year to get back. But he's shown us that when he puts his mind to something, car wrecks and all, bro, nothing he can't do, and he's willing to fight anybody. He doesn't need to tune up.
All right. He's Icewater. I'm Puma. This is Fight Game.